How's your experience been in these dating streets?
I would say it's been rough, if I'm being honest. It has been rough. I think that dating, period, is just a very difficult thing to do right now. But when you add, height, when you add waiting, when you add all of those things into dating, it becomes more difficult.
You said when you add waiting, what is your, how can you ask that question?
I thought you were going to say status.
I'm about to say status. Yeah, what's your status? Be like, what? How you ask that question? Because I know we talk about it. So you're virgin.
Yes.
Just it's straight up. I like to just.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're a virgin. What has that introduced in the dating phase? And how soon do you tell guys that?
We put porn to shame.
The womb isn't just about where I give birth to babies. The womb is about where we give birth to purpose.
Talk!
I was basically all of her nevers.
I never imagined my journey would inspire people all over the world.
You have set a standard in love.
I was dating a young lady who helped me heal.
Wow. This woman is a ride or die.
The conversations have really helped me to change my perspective on relationships.
I had 19 attorneys at one time that were speaking into my ear. 19 attorneys.
My last relationship, it did a number on me.
What you did not know is I had a whole little situation lined up that evening.
Your transparency is literally setting people free.
And you're unique. You ain't like nobody else. I noticed that right away.
You can make me cry. Thank you. I received that.
Let one of them Barbie doll bodies walk over here. You gonna say, "Dear future wifey." You know what I'm saying? They're gonna go right in that box.
I'm Laterras R. Whitfield, and welcome to the Dear Future Wifey Podcast.
Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey Podcast. I'm your host, Laterras R. Whitfield. Listen, we are having an amazing time on the podcast in season 5. But before we get started, are you still shacking up with us? If you're still shacking up with us, come on, can we just make a commitment? I mean, we're 5 seasons in, and even if you just started with us, hit that subscription button and subscribe. Turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified about upcoming episodes. Man, we have been deep diving into some controversial subject matter. And today we're gonna have fun. We're gonna talk about some stuff that we're gonna challenge you. Brothers, we're gonna challenge you. Women, we're gonna challenge you in your thought processes. And we did an episode in first season called Preference versus Purpose. And so we're gonna go ahead and challenge some of our preferences. So without further ado, welcome to the Dear Future Wifey Podcast. My new homie, Alicia Jay. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about this.
So I'm a not talk about the obvious things, since you said when people see you, the first thing they do is talk about this particular thing. So I'm gonna try to talk about something else. Psych. You are 6'6", right?
Yes, 6'6", not with heels on. People always say, how tall are you with heels? Obviously, it depends on the heel that I'm wearing. But 6'6" without heels, yes.
6'6". You said the first thing people talk about when they see you is what?
My height. They always want to know if I play basketball. That's the number one thing. But the number one thing is they'll be like, you're tall. I'm aware. I've lived in this body my whole entire life.
So they approach you as if they're giving you new information.
Right. Like they're the first ones to tell me that I'm tall. Like, what? I am?
I am? You're the first person to tell me that. So we're going to call this episode, this is going to be an affectionate title. We're going to call it Love Has No Height. Do you believe that?
I am more open to it than I ever have been before.
Why?
Because I do want to live a life of purpose, and I believe that your relationship should be within that purpose. You should be in purpose together.
Right.
And so I'm really trying to be aware of what package God may want to send that to me in. Now, prior to
let's talk about the prior
to this revelation that I've had probably in the last 5 years, I just wanted someone taller than me.
Taller than you?
Yes. Yes.
Taller than you?
Absolutely.
Have you met many guys that were taller than you?
Yes, I have.
Why? Like you meet them have you dated them?
I definitely have. I would say the shortest man that I've dated is 6'3".
Okay.
And the tallest one was 7'2".
7'2".
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
That wasn't too long ago. Probably about a year ago.
Oh, that was recent.
Yeah.
Did you feel like he was the one?
I did for a minute. I did. And not because of his height, just because of him.
Just because of him.
But his height did help.
It did.
It was great. I mean, I think just being like in the same like eyesight of somebody, you know, it does help. Like it helps with everything, including chemistry, right? But I don't think that it's the end all be all now, because I know that there's so much more to love than just height. But I'm not knocking anybody out there that feels that way.
Right.
Because preference is a thing.
Yes.
And I think that God also gives us preferences.
Yes, he does.
For a reason. So I'm not knocking it, but I think I'm more open to it now than I ever have been.
So we're challenging the ideology that love has no height. Could you be with someone, and I mean, you're a purpose person, so when I say be with, we're talking about marriage. Mm-hmm. Could you be with somebody that's 5 feet tall?
I think it would be difficult. It would be difficult because society looks at it in such a way where anywhere we went, we would get stares, we would get questions, people, like even for me, just as a tall woman, people will approach me, even like touch me, take pictures of me from
They'll
afar.
Walk up and touch you?
Yeah. Like, oh, you are this tall. I'm just like.
They'll walk up and physically touch you.
Yes. And any tall woman will tell you that they get this all the time. I have my friends, you know, they deal with so much more than I do because I think I'm used to it now. You know, I'm not saying it's right. None of it is right.
Yeah.
But I think just being in this tall body my whole life, I get used to walking around and getting the stares and the questions and everything. I'm not saying it doesn't get to me sometimes. We can cover that later.
Yeah.
But they aren't used to it. So when they're out there with me, you know, I'll have friends go up to people and say stuff to them. They'll catch people taking pictures and be like, no, you know? And so imagine being with somebody who is 5 foot and you're 6'6", having to deal with that all the time. I think it would be difficult. I'm not saying it would be impossible, but it would be difficult.
But that wouldn't be a deal breaker for you though.
I wouldn't say a deal breaker, but it would definitely have to be straight from God. Because like God would have to be like, hey, it's him with the flashlight. You know what I'm saying? Because it's difficult in itself to be a tall woman. It's a beautiful thing, but it has its difficulties. And you would really have to love someone to walk in that walk with them and deal with that on top of the stuff that we already deal with in relationships. When
you were walking around with the guy that was 7'2", didn't y'all get a bunch of stares?
Yeah. I mean, I would say a bunch of stares, but it's not for that reason. It's not because it's abnormal. I think it was just because, whoa, it's two tall people walking around. But society thinks that a woman who is taller than a man is abnormal. It just does. I'm not saying it's right, but it's there.
That's good. That's good. That's interesting. That's extremely interesting. So you said the shortest guy you dated was 6'2"? 6'3". Mm-hmm. Did that feel different or awkward to you?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, not at all. But the thing, and this is key, I don't care how tall you are, is the confidence level and just being okay with it. Because there's so many men that will approach me and be like, girl, I'll climb you, which don't do that. Please.
They say I'm going to climb you.
Oh, girl, that's a tree right there. I'm going to climb her. She a stallion, you know, all these things. Like, please don't just save that. But they say that. Or they'll approach you and they'll say that they're okay with it. Until you are on a date, or I mean, I wouldn't go out on a date with somebody who called me a stallion, but until you go out on a date with them and then there's things that happen that you can tell that they're not comfortable with.
Give me an example.
I had a guy who would not hold hands with me in public because he was uncomfortable, you know, and no. I will not live my life like that. I will be single every day of my life before I settle for somebody who's not comfortable with who I am.
Yes. Whew. It said not hold my hand in public. Was that somebody you was in a committed relationship with?
We're just dating.
Yeah.
We're dating, getting to know each other.
But behind closed doors, he'll touch you or be affectionate with you.
Yeah. I mean, obviously pursuing me and all of that, but then when we're in public, you can't hold hands. Like,
was he like walking, creating distance between y'all when y'all walking? And
right.
Make it look like y'all not really together?
Yeah, I'm a person who, I'm not saying PDA full out, but I like to hold hands. I like to be close, that kind of thing. And I would go to hold his hand and he would.
Oh, he'll move out the way?
Yeah.
How long would that last?
Not very long. You ain't got to tell me twice. So I'm not wasting time. We don't have time to waste.
So you are intentionally dating in this season, right?
Yes.
You desire a husband.
I do.
How close have you been to being married?
Not very close. I would say that I've been really, really close to finding who I think I would be married to.
I want you to unpack that.
Yeah, very, very close.
Finding what I think I want to be married to. What does that mean?
Everything that I think that I have on paper that I would orchestrate for myself was there. But at the end of the day, it wasn't what God wanted for me.
What I think I want to be married to.
What I think. And that's one of the reasons why I'm more open to things like height, because I don't want to block who God wants in my life.
I did an episode, like I talked about first season, because I'm always challenging my own ideology. I was married 2 weeks shy of 10 years. And at the age of 28, when I got married, I don't think it was that deep back then. I don't think I had all these different preferences. It was just like I want a woman of God, and she had what was it back then? Because I was in theater during that time as a national playwright, director, and producer. So I wanted somebody that had an affinity towards the arts, and she was an actress, and so it was just perfect. But the older I become, the more preferences that I've created based upon the demise of my marriage, and now I'm deconstructing those and saying, that don't matter. Like all that stuff that you think matters really doesn't matter. And that's where I'm submitting myself to the desires of God and say, God, who do you have for me? Like what it looks like. Because oftentimes when we're choosing who we're choosing them present tense.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen to us a year from now, let alone 20 years. And when we're talking about till death do us part, then we go through a lot of different seasons with that loved one. And what you chose today, they may not look like that 5 years down the line. They may not be as vibrant and bouncing around in this gym rat or this athletic body that you desired back then. And now this person has lost a limb or two, and do you still love them in spite of? And so that's what I've been asking God for lately, is saying, God, you know my life. You have the blueprint of my life. You know what's going to get me from this moment until death do we part with this loved one. And so you choose.
And you also know what I have to accomplish. And so when you are with someone, it's not just about what they look like or how comfortable you are when you hold hands or whatever. It's about that thing that you need to accomplish. Can they also help you with that purpose?
There it is.
Because if you are working towards that and you're working towards the thing that God has told you to do and they can't support you, I don't want to call them a liability.
But that's what it is.
But it's not within the purpose. It doesn't fall in line with what you are supposed to do or accomplish.
And that's why I say I'm not looking for a wife, a spouse. I'm looking for my purpose partner.
Yeah.
I'm looking for someone that it just works. You get with that person, you go, oh my God, you do that. Oh, that's great. I do this too. We can do this together. And you just get this light bulb moment of purpose. And you know that you can run faster with that person. You can move more efficiently with that person. You can think in ways that you couldn't think by yourself with that person because they're the added component.
Well, and understanding.
Yes.
When you're doing things that take a lot of work, a lot of hours, a lot of time, you have to be with somebody who's understanding, that understands that you're not going to always be there 24/7.
Have you run into that? Well, let people know your line of work. What do you do?
I work in social media. I also work in broadcasting, and I'm a talent. So I have a lot of things that I do and a lot of hours that I put in. And so I definitely need somebody who understands that, with all the things that I do, that we're going to be apart at some time. And I truly believe that my partner will be doing things that I have to have understanding for too.
Yeah.
You know? So,
did you find that was a challenge in past relationships, that you were working a lot or doing whatever you did at that time? Because I take it that you're a very ambitious woman.
I am. And also it's important to know that I do have a job.
Yeah.
I do have an occupation that I do enjoy.
Yeah.
But I also have purpose in Tall Swag. Yeah. And so me going around and talking to people about confidence and talking to people about standing tall every day in every way, it definitely takes up time too. And so someone's got to understand all of that.
Tell people who don't know about your mission. You said Tall Swag. Mm-hmm. That's your IG handle, but it's more than just your IG handle. What does Tall Swag stand for, and what is that for?
Well, Tall Swag is something that I embody. I love my height. I love what my height has brought me. I love standing tall, but I didn't always. So growing up, just imagine being head and shoulders above the rest your whole entire life. Like,
yeah.
I mean, even I always tell people I was 10'1" coming out the womb. So like 10'1", 23 and a half inches. So I've always been
10'1",
you know, exceptional. But, you know, going into middle school, I was 6'3". And just imagine
in middle school.
Did
y'all middle school start in 6th grade or 7th grade?
6th grade.
You were 6'3".
Yeah. So going into middle school, I was 6'3", and I was also I grew up in Beaverton, Oregon, which, you know, is exactly how it sounds.
Beaverton, Oregon.
And I was one of 30 kids of color in the school district.
In the whole school district?
In the whole school district. So I went from growing up in Portland, Oregon, where I was in a community of all Black people in Northeast Portland, to when my parents got divorced, going to Beaverton, Oregon, where I was one of 30 kids of color in the school district. My brother and I would walk home from school and they would yell the N-word out the window at us. And, you know, being tall, people thought that I was older. Not that they wouldn't say that to kids, because obviously we still appeared as kids.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, you know, they were yelling at what they thought was like an older kid as well, but doesn't make it right.
Right.
But so imagine going into school, being one of the only kids of color, having curly hair, not really knowing what to do with it at the time. And then also being 6'3", I got bullied and picked apart like nobody's business. I vividly remember, you know, walking down the hallway one day, you know, lockers on both sides. And there was a group of kids that were standing there. I thought it was weird, but I just kept it moving, moved forward. And one of them tripped me and another one yelled timber as I fell down to the floor.
So now hold on. Now what happened after that? Did you get up swinging? Was you a fighter back then?
I was not. I was so introverted because, you know, I had no friends, no people that looked the same as me around me. I was in this new environment, and then I was being berated, you know, by all of these kids.
So you were real shy.
I was shy back in the day, but also I had no confidence. I didn't know what to do with any of the gifts that God gave me because I didn't think they were gifts. You know, somebody.
So was it a guy that tripped you or a girl?
It was a guy, and the girl yelled timber. I remember it vividly. Like, I can see it in my head right now. And so I went through a lot. You know, my parents were going through a divorce. I was in this new environment. I was being bullied. I was even being bullied by teachers. They would bring me up in front of the class. This one teacher specifically, her name was Miss Bean. She brought me up in front of a class on the regular and would tell how bad my spelling scores were. And I would complain, she would deny, and finally other kids in the class started complaining, and so they finally did something about it. But I was going through a lot.
What was her point? What point was she trying to prove?
Just that I wasn't a good student. I mean, I really can't. I can't tell you what was in her head.
But you're a quiet student. Like, you wasn't a troublemaker or anything like that. You're just quiet, stand to yourself, low self-esteem, not very confident, performing poorly in spelling. And she just took it upon herself to be like, hey, you come up here. We finna just talk about how bad your grades are.
Yeah. I mean, I was the only black kid in the class. Like, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
So I went through a lot, and I did not love myself. There were times in high school where I was suicidal, for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Absolutely. And it wasn't until I went to college and I played basketball, which I started late, and I wasn't like inherently good at basketball.
Late, like at what, in high school?
About 7th grade.
Oh, 7th grade. Okay.
Which is kind of late. Now, people have a ball in people's hands, from birth, basically. Exactly. But people thought I should be balling out of control, like dunking, and it just didn't come to me very easily. Yeah.
So they made fun of you at that too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I worked really, really, really hard, and I got a full RISE scholarship. And when I went to college.
Well, hold on. When did you become quote unquote good?
I wouldn't even say I got really good until I was about probably like my second year in college. Okay. After I redshirted.
But still got a full RISE scholarship?
Yeah, I mean, I was good, but like I had to work so hard at being good. It just didn't come naturally to me. So I probably hit my stride in basketball probably about my second year in college after I redshirted.
You redshirted.
Yeah.
And then now you're in the space where your height is rewarded.
Right.
How did that feel when you became a basketball player and now is not? Did you still feel judgment, or was it like, oh, we expect you to be, that they applaud you for your height?
Well, I wouldn't even say it wasn't even so much applause, but it was the way that my confidence turned when I got on that team in college, because I was around other tall women, other tall black women who absolutely loved who they were and owned it. And I was just sitting there like, you can love this? I didn't even know that you could love it.
That's good.
And I just sat with myself and I said, you have been believing these lies that these people have been telling you about the gifts that you have, and they're gifts, and you need to go out and use them in the exact way that they have been given to you. And my confidence just started building up, and I never really looked back. Like, I just saw how beautiful my height was, how beautiful it was to be black, how beautiful my hair was. All of the things that these people have picked apart.
Yeah.
I saw the power in them, and I walked forward, and I created things like Tall Swag to show other people that you don't have to believe those lies.
When did you start that? Back in college?
I started it when I got out of college. So when I started my professional sports career, I just said, I need to start something. And it started off super small, and we're still plugging away. But I'm very thankful for the platform that God has given me. And I feel privilege in it.
Tell me what's the testimony you've heard because what's so beautiful about it is that when God, you can never have a testimony unless you've first been tested, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's a young girl out there that's 6th grade, 6'3", and she feels ashamed. Have you run into those girls that saw you and you were able to pour into them? Their mom may have connected them to you. Do you have any testimonies that tell the story of this young girl?
I would say I've had so many of those, and I'm so thankful that I have, because that's exactly why I'm here. Yeah. There's so many other things that I do, but at the base, I know that I'm here to inspire the exact person that I was coming up. And I can't say that I would single anyone out, but what I do know is that every single time I see a tall girl, I tell her how beautiful her height is.
Oh, you do?
I do, because I needed that. I needed to be seen when I was walking those streets of Beaverton. I needed someone just to say it. A little thing like that can just completely change someone's life. Me walking onto that college team and seeing those women that were, they didn't even know what they did for me. And I want to be that for those girls out there.
Certain things that we just don't think about. Like we live in our own little bubble and we don't think of the impact. And some stuff is really innocent just by, I call it ignorance. You just don't know. And so you may walk up to I guess I've never just walked up to a stranger and said nothing like that. Because I don't think like that. I'm like, would I ever walk up to somebody and be like, you're tall? Like, that just sounds stupid to me.
Well, I'm glad it sounds stupid to you. But let me tell you, it doesn't sound stupid to a lot of these people out here.
Or just walk up and be like, can I take a picture with you? That's so intrusive. Like
100%, it happens all the time. Or it's like they're trying to
get a picture of you while you.
Yeah. Yeah. People say the craziest things to you. I've had people tell me that, because, I haven't played basketball in years. And I've had people tell me that I'm a waste because I'm not playing basketball. And I'm like, a waste. And
so they'll walk up to you and say, "Are you you play ball?" You say, "Nope." They go, "You're a waste."
Someone really did that. That's a waste. You're a waste. And what people have to understand is
that is
tall
crazy,
women are here for everything.
Yes.
We have an exceptional height. We absolutely do. But it doesn't mean that we have to play sports. We're so much more than that. So much more.
They've said that to my nephew who I adopted. He's like probably 6'1", 6 something, and he's 9th grade, but he's always been tall for his age. And they're like, "You ain't got him in basketball? What's he doing? He need to be in basketball." He's like, so he tried to play basketball. In 6th grade, he tried to go out for the basketball team, and he was terrible. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't dribble. He couldn't do anything. And he felt like such a loser. He was just crying. I was like, you can do, just because you're tall don't mean you have to play basketball. It's not like you're tall, you play basketball. You're this, you got to run track. You're this, it's like you don't have to fall into social norms.
Right.
But he felt like his height wasn't gaining the response that he needed, in life, because he didn't play basketball. And I was like, that just doesn't make any sense.
Well, what I often tell people that say that is, why aren't you playing? Because last time I checked, anybody of any height could play basketball. So get out there on the court and get you an NBA, get your contract.
I bet you be so smart with people now.
Yeah.
So you said, we were talking the other day, you said that you've gone to restaurants where people call you sir.
Yes. So people out the corner of their eye, they see how tall you are, and they just said, "How can I help you, sir?" Before they even look up, because they just equate the height with being a man.
And what have you said in those, Alicia? What have you said to the people of God in those moments?
I don't know if God is always proud of the way that I handle those things. I don't know if he's always proud now, but I correct people.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you this, the young Alicia could not handle the comments and what people said. I wasn't equipped to handle it.
Yeah.
And so I want to tell people how terrible it is to do things like that to tall women or tall girls especially, because they're not equipped to handle it either.
Yeah.
So I don't want that young girl to go further into a depression if she's feeling bad about her height because you call her sir. And that is just, and I'm going to be honest, even if it was somebody who was a transgender person, you still don't call them that.
Right.
Because it's not right to do that either. So people just need to literally just stop assuming based on a stereotype that society set. Like, just say, "How can I help you?" How about that?
Start there.
And look at me. Because I'm not.
People be afraid to make eye contact with you?
I wouldn't say afraid, but people are definitely intimidated. I remember vividly in a former place of work, a former employer of mine that I work for, I went to meet an executive for the first time, just to introduce myself. And I went to shake her hand, and she went like this.
Oh, really?
And I said, "Okay, all right." And she was like, "Ooh, you give me anxiety. You intimidate me." She audibly said that to my face.
She said you give her anxiety.
Yes. And I intimidate her. And now that I know how powerful my height is, I was actually excited that I intimidated her, because listen, if you're going to be intimidated by it, I'm going to use it to my advantage.
Use it to your advantage.
But the old, the Alicia that didn't understand how powerful it was, I would have been offended. And she shouldn't have said that. She was wrong. But that's an internal issue that she has, not something that has anything to do with me.
I wonder what made her intimidated. Like, what things you gonna jump on her, beat her up or something? Like what? Like I'm like, how do you get intimidated by it?
I don't know what her issue was.
Yeah, that's.
But I hope she ironed it out.
How's your experience been in these dating streets?
I would say it's been rough, if I'm being honest. It has been rough. I think that dating, period, is just a very difficult thing to do right now. But when you add, height, when you add waiting, when you add all of those things into dating, it becomes more difficult.
You said when you add waiting, what is your how can you ask that question?
I thought you were going to say status.
I'm about to say status. Yeah, what's your status? Be like, what? How you ask that question? Because I know we talk about it. So you're virgin.
Yes.
Just straight up. I like to just.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're virgin. What has that introduced in the dating phase? And how soon do you tell guys that?
Well, I think it's a layer of protection, to be honest, because, and I guess literally, but also figuratively, because it really shows you real quick who's there for getting to know you, who's there to pursue you, who's really there for you, and who's just there to hit.
Yeah.
So.
And how so you say that you say that up front?
Well, it depends. I think that when you're dating someone, you don't necessarily put all your cards out on the table on the first date. So I don't just come and sit down at the table and be like,
I'm a virgin, right? So if you want to leave, you can leave now.
Yeah.
All right, but they have amazing Brussels sprouts here.
Right. like I definitely don't do that. But I have shared my story a lot. And so people may already know.
Yeah.
I always know when that's happening because they're kind of like fishing for it. And I'm just like, okay, so you've obviously seen my story.
You say fishing for it.
Yeah. Well, but
pun intended.
Very intended. But, so it is difficult because I've had a lot of people ghost me. I've had a lot of people think that they're going to be the one to break me down.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, she a virgin now. I'm wearing, like Steve Urkel did to Laura. He's like, I'm wearing you down. I'm wearing you down.
Right.
So they feel like they can do that to you.
Right.
And God, that's just.
Yeah. But you know what? It's okay because this isn't, to be honest, like this is just a way that I honor God.
I was about to ask you that. Why are you a virgin?
Yeah. So I really had to do a deep dive into why I was, especially during the pandemic, because so many feelings just came out, I think, from being by yourself. A lot of things that happened during the pandemic really showed a lot about religion and the Christian church, which made me really analyze just, I would say, my faith in general. I just want to make sure that it was something that I believed and not something that was given to me or pushed on me or something that people thought I should do. And so I adopted it.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to make sure that I was doing it because I wanted to honor God and not just because I thought it's what I should do, because then there's no point to it as far as I'm concerned.
And what did you discover?
And I discovered that I definitely did it to honor God. At the end of the day, God is just so amazing and he's been so amazing in my life. And it doesn't make me better than anyone. It doesn't make him love me more. It doesn't do any of those things, but it definitely is a way that I want to honor him and all that he's done for me.
In the pandemic, did your faith waver in that regard? Did you get a little weary in your well-doing and say, why Is this not, because I've spoken to women who were virgins up to like 31, 32, and one of my friends said that she had a virginity pact with a couple of her friends, and then at the age of 37, her friend was like, I don't want to do this no more, and just called up her homeboy and was like, let's have sex. He was like, what? And he did, and she asked a friend, like, was it worth it? She was just like, nah, but I'm tired of having that a part of my life and my story. So I was like, why would you just give it away so casually if you held on to it so sacred for so long? But she felt like she didn't want it a part of her story. So my question is, during the pandemic and this state of loneliness, did you get a little weary in your well-doing and was like, you know what, I might as well go and give it to Jerome over there?
No, I personally did not. But I will say the thing that made me kind of question it was having children.
Oh, yeah.
During the pandemic, when you're kind of like sitting with yourself and you're a certain age, I'm 41, and I actually froze my eggs during the pandemic. I was just thinking it's really unfair.
Well, let me stop. I ain't gonna just let that slide. Congratulations.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Congratulations. A lot of times people put the stigma on that, but that's wise. So I want to make sure that I address that.
Yeah, it's an investment for my future with my husband.
Yes.
Age does matter when it comes to having children. I believe that God can do all things, and I do have faith, but having faith means that I put some eggs to the side.
Yep.
Because we never know if we're going to need them or not.
Exactly.
So yeah, but it was a lot to go through alone. It was hard because you're giving yourself these injections, and it just really highlighted the fact that there's no one there to help you in that moment and to help you with that process. So it was heavy, and it really did have me questioning, like, well, if I hadn't waited, maybe I would already have kids and this wouldn't be an issue. Or maybe I would have found somebody that I really love. And, it did make me question it 100%.
It's interesting. You said, if I wasn't waiting, then maybe I could have found someone that I really loved or who really loved me.
Yeah.
It's like we ask these questions. If I wasn't waiting, then I could have found someone that really loved me.
I mean, I'd be lying if I said those feelings didn't creep in.
Of course,
I'm a very transparent person. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, "Oh, it's so easy." No. It's absolutely hard. Those feelings creep in, but at the end of the day, I know that me honoring this is going to honor who comes into my life.
That's something that's been talked about a lot on, some of the sites that I look at, abstinence and whatnot. And people have their different reasons for it. Some people say, I'm going to be abstinent while I go through this healing from this breakup. And then when I get in my next relationship, we finna have sex. That's just a part of it. You have women that say, I watched this thing. Matter of fact, one of my friends sent me this graphic, this meme, on V103 in Atlanta, where this guy said that he's 50 years old, he's practicing abstinence, and he was talking to some women, and the women was like, oh no, I'm about to test drive that thing before we get in a relationship. I'm not finna be abstinent with you. So it needs to be said that a lot of women ain't trying to wait either, and especially when you're of a certain age, when men are quote unquote on the decline sexually, then they want to make sure that he ain't suffering from erectile dysfunction. So they like, nah, we got to see this. I ain't finna be spending a lifetime with somebody that ain't trying to resolve that. So why is it important for you to be aligned with someone that shares the same belief? Not that first of all, I'm gonna ask you, do you want a guy that's a virgin?
No.
Why you say no?
No. I mean, it doesn't.
You said that's not the requirement.
No, I'm not saying if a virgin came into my life, that'd be great.
Right.
Fine.
But you're saying that's not the prerequisite.
It is not.
But he needs to be practicing abstinence.
Well, if he's with me, yes.
That's what I want to be clear, because he'd be like, all right, don't have sex with me. He'd be like, cool, I'm going to have sex with somebody else until we get married.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. That's not how it's going to go. Yeah, no. Definitely, he will have to sacrifice and practice abstinence with me, but if he wants me, he'll do that. It's been hard. For me, listen, when I tell you I've come very close. Okay.
Yeah.
There's been many instances where we would not be sitting here talking about this right now.
Had it not been for the grace of God.
Goodness gracious. But that's where I am now. That's what I plan on doing. But my ministry is not to tell people to be virgins.
No, it's you.
It's just, that's my path.
100%.
And that's where I'm at. I think, and I'd be transparent if tomorrow I lost it. I would just be like, didn't make it, y'all. Like,
that's how I am. I just be telling the truth.
You know, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings.
Yeah.
And I fall every day in some different way, shape, or form. And just because I'm waiting in that area doesn't make me any more, you know, of a person than anybody else. Because trust me, I fall every day, and I try my hardest to honor God, but I'm a human being and I do falter, and I'm just thankful for his grace. But I'm also going to be transparent in that. Always have been, always will be, because I think our transparency is how we really thrive and grow.
And that's why this whole podcast exists. This podcast exists because I want to create safe spaces for people to embrace their truth so that they can share it with the world, or just share it with their inner circle. Like a lot of us are just living lies around people that are closest to us. We're afraid to talk about stuff, and it's like, how can you be a best friend to someone but not be transparent? How can you be a brother to someone, or a son, or a father, and not share? So I share stuff with my kids all the time. I just live a very transparent life, and so this podcast has been doing the same for everyone else. There's a lot of people gleaning information, be like, and it's scary, you know, because you're afraid of judgment. But like you said, hey, I can be on this path for 41 years and have my little oops moment, and then be like, hey, well, it was good while it lasted. I gave it a good old college try, you know. It's like, and that's just the reality.
Yeah, and I think if you put like this pressure on it, and also you can idolize your virginity. You can idolize marriage. I was about to ask you that.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, did it ever become like I told you about the example of the lady or whatever, a friend of a friend that said, I don't want this part of my life no more, a part of my story. At any point, did you begin to idolize it?
Absolutely.
At what age? At what age did you recognize I am idolizing my virginity?
Well, I think that's a constant thing.
Oh, really?
That you have to really look at, because you can even put it above your relationship with God. You really can. If you're looking at that one thing that you do to honor him, and you put that above all things, like, then it's bigger than he is.
That's good, Alicia.
Then it's bigger than he is.
That's good.
You can't do that.
You said if you look at this one thing that you do to honor God and put that thing way up there, then you done made that an idol.
Yep.
Something that something that you were initially using to bring honor has now become an idol.
Absolutely.
That's pretty deep.
Yeah, it is. And it can happen so quickly, so fast. And so you have to constantly check in with, like, why am I actually doing that? What is the purpose? Is it bigger than him? Like, it should be a part of your walk and not your entire walk.
Some of the biggest fears that I'll just speak that men have is, well, women say it too. You get with a virgin, you get married, you're not testing anything out before you get married, and then you sign up and you may get a gag gift. You get this woman that doesn't want to have sex. So speak on that. What do you think it would, what is your mindset around that?
I have plans.
You have plans?
I have plans, okay? Whoever he is better be ready. Because I have
take out 41,
all the plans.
42 years out on him.
Listen, and practice makes perfect.
He was like, Alicia, God, I'm tired. Can you chill? And he started telling you, hey, our marriage can't be based on sex. Let's just take time. Can you cuddle? Can we cuddle?
He might be tired, but he better find some energy.
Like, can you hold me? As my boy Marcus said on one of the episodes, he said, I'll be the little spoon, you be the big spoon. He's like, just hold me. So you feel like have guys ever said that while you were dating them?
Absolutely.
They'll say stuff like what?
And I understand that it's pressure to have somebody who's never been with someone with you. They don't think, they're kind of like nervous that, you know, I'm the only person she's ever going to be with.
Yeah.
So I understand that. But what I think, there's a huge misconception of virgins that we're not sexual people.
Yeah. Well,
I'm a very sexual person. I just want to have sex with one person.
But see, that's what I'm saying. It's like saying you're a sexual person, but how? What's the frame of reference? Just like you said in basketball, they assume just because you were tall, you could play basketball, but it's something you have to work really hard at it. And so, how can you say you're quote unquote sexual, but you haven't had sex?
Well, just because you haven't had sex doesn't mean you don't have the desire. I'm also very acquainted with myself. I know what I like and what I don't like.
There it is.
And so
I want you to say it, not me.
Yeah, well, I said it. And so there are things that I already know.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that I want to do. And whoever it is does need to be ready because we will be doing all the things.
You have been warned. Whoever you are, get ready.
And I think even if you have been having sex with someone for a long time, or you have had sex, you still need to evolve as a person, as a sexual being, and try things out, constantly check in with someone to know what they like, what they don't like, what they want to try. All of those things happen, and I'll be doing all of those things with one person. And I look forward to that.
You know, that's good to say, because a lot of times, like I said, men, it's funny because men, it's so interesting because there's two opposing thoughts. Because you say, men are always like, well, I'm scared to be with a virgin. But then men berated me when I had a video that went viral that said, I'm not intimidated by a woman's past. She could have been with 25, 35 men. I know how to cultivate that woman, the version of her that I'll have no other man has ever gotten. This one guy did a reaction video to it, and one of my supporters saw the video while he was live on YouTube and said, hey, he has you as a thumbnail. Do you know about this? So I was like, let me go ahead and pull up. So I went to the live and I went in the chat and I said, hey man, put me in the game, coach. And he was like, they was like, oh, the simp is in the comments. It was like, the simp is in the chat. I said, put me in. So he brought me up. And he was like, oh, you know, man, my bad. I'm just having a little fun or whatever. I said, no, we can talk. You know, I'm 10 toes down with everything I do. So what is the problem that you had with this? And he was like, well, I just think you're encouraging women to be H's. You know, you're encouraging them to just go have sex with a bunch of people. I said, well, newsflash, they already are. They've already been sexually active with people. I'm just saying that I said, I will never fault a woman for running into a bunch of me's on her way to find me.
I mean, but how is that? I don't know. People just really want to talk about things, because how is you saying that it's fine for somebody to have a past like that, encouraging it?
He also said, I said, so what's the perfect number then? He's like, well, you really don't want her to be with nobody. But I mean, if she did, then maybe one, maybe two at the most. I'm saying, so you're talking about a 40-year-old woman, 35-year-old woman, 30-year-old woman, 25-year-old woman. You can only handle, your fragile masculinity can only handle if she's had one or maybe two sexual partners. But then here you are saying that you meet a guy and you tell him you're a virgin and then they ghost you.
Yeah.
You would think that they'd be like, this big old light, like, I found her, and do everything in their power to keep you. But then they're running off. Right.
But I also think that it is an intimidating thing, and I understand that. I'm not going to sit here and say that it isn't. But if people would just get to know me, they would understand that that is like a very, very small part of who I am and what I bring to the table, just as a woman of God. And so I just think they get scared about that part and don't even want to get deep into the relationship, because then they will have to, wait with me. And that's a hard thing to do too.
But that's what I'm saying. It's a catch-22, because the guys that were going off, that video, you can go check. It's probably about 7,000 comments or something under that video. Got like 1 million views. A little 60-second video on YouTube, a short. I've never had this amount of men respond to anything I've done.
Yeah.
It's like 7,000 or something crazy. And they're all like mad. They're like, this is Homer Simpson and all this. They saying all this stuff. It's funny because they saying that for me to have the ideology that a woman's sexual past doesn't bother me is a problem. But then those are the same guys that would ghost you. That's the part that I'm saying. It's like, if it does, like, which one is it? You just said that you don't want her to be with anybody. Then you meet that person that hasn't been with anybody. How are you treating her? How are you showing up in her life? Or how have you shown her that she's valuable or more valuable than the women that you say that have had sex with multiple partners, that they have somehow lost their value?
Well, a lot of people think that they want it, but then when they get it, they have no idea what to do with it. And so they run. And that's okay. You can run. Run on away from me. If you don't want me, I'm not going to, do anything to make you stay. I really, truly feel that, God will put that in someone's heart when they meet me, that sacrifice is worth it. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I'm honestly, like, this is the most comfortable I've ever been in my singleness in my life.
So you're telling me, Alicia, that if you never, ever get married, you will be okay with that?
It would bother me at times, but I would have to accept that was my path.
Would you stay a virgin until you die?
I cannot tell you that I can't say that.
Yeah.
I understand that life happens. And while it is the goal, and while I would hope so, I don't know. And that's just the truth.
And that is the truth. It's like you're a virgin because you desire to save yourself for marriage. But if marriage never comes, then again, you'll be in that pandemic mentality, be like, what am I waiting for?
We're human beings. Our feelings will come in and they will sit there for a while.
They sure will.
And I definitely, my entire life I've had depression from a young age. It actually runs in my family.
Oh, okay.
And I have to be really aware of it. And so those feelings are going to happen. There are inevitably 3 days a month for me where I just can't see beyond the clouds.
Really?
Yeah.
It's been like that?
My whole life.
3 days?
At least 3 days.
And how do you combat that?
I just hang on to what God has shown me and told me about my life, and that I'm here for a reason, that he goes before me, and no matter what I'm feeling, he will be there on the other side of it.
That's a powerful thing, and I'll tell you why. But look at that camera. That's your camera right there.
This is mine.
Yeah, so whoever, I want you to speak to the person that's struggling with depression, to speak to that single woman that is feeling like God has forgotten about them, that woman that says that some of the things that they're not comfortable about, which is their physical attributes, speak to that woman and encourage her.
Everything that God has given you, he has given you for a reason. You have gifts that nobody else on this earth has. And he's given them to you to execute your purpose, period. And we have feelings, but we also have faith. Yeah. And so we have to focus on our faith over our feelings, because our feelings, while they're beautiful and they have moments where we just feel so amazing, and those are straight from God, we have to understand that those low moments that we have and those feelings that we have to bring us down are really there to hinder who we are. And when we focus on our faith over them, it will help us through. I can't tell you, I've had so many dark days in my life, so many days where I didn't really understand why I was here or what my purpose was, but God shows me every single time in little ways that he has created me specifically for a reason. And every single one of us has a purpose in this world, on this earth. And so just hang on to that and know that you're an amazing person that was here to do amazing things. And those feelings are not going to stop you from doing that. Just get through them. I know it's hard, but hang on to that faith because it's going to get you through and it's going to show you exactly where you need to go. I don't know if that was good or not.
No, that's amazing. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to put context, the reason why I had you say that. And I know my son over there, Armani, said, God, I always got to say something to me. Because before you got here, I was on the phone with my friend Jessica Reedy. And Jessica, we just talking about stuff and all that. And she had mentioned she mentioned the term unequally yoked. Yeah. And then I had on speakerphone, and so Armani, being inquisitive as he is, he's one of those guys that's always trying to learn. And he said, what does that mean? What does unequally yoked mean? And she began to tell him and break it down. She went through this long explanation of it. And so I got up and walked into my office, and he was just sitting there listening to her. And then she started asking him how he feels or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Armani he struggles with depression. And so she began to ask him questions. He's like, all due respect, I don't feel like talking. I usually don't talk to people. I really don't open up. I really don't do this. Mm-hmm. And she was like, no, but today is the end of that. Let's talk. And she kept trying to talk to him, and he just would not budge. And she tried for quite some time, and I just sat in the office, and I was like, hopefully he opens up, and if he doesn't, then I'm glad that he hears that someone cares, that someone can hear behind his silence and know that something ain't right. Yeah. And so when you just start speaking openly about struggling with depression your whole life, he's open about it. He's tried to commit suicide several times, and he's open about it. He shares it, talks about it on social media, talked about it in school, which I was surprised. I was like, what? You shared that with your classmate? He's like, this is something I want to say about him too. This is really, really powerful. He was working on a project in culinary, and he had a suicide attempt, and he had to go to the behavioral health hospital. This was a few months ago. And he was like, when he got out, he's like, man, I think I failed my team, my partners, because I wasn't there. I was like, you care about what they, who tries to commit suicide but then care that they weren't available for the team on a culinary project? You know what I'm saying? I was like, so I asked him, I was like, I just thought that was odd. And then he came home and he ended up telling me that he shared, they asked where he was. He said, I just got to the behavioral health hospital, and he shared why. And I said, why did you share that with them? He was like, because I'm gonna just be honest. I'm always be honest. And, and then what happens when he starts sharing stuff like that, then other kids begin to share about their story and their suicide attempts. And it's just very hard. So one thing I want to do is salute you for, people look up to you, people see you. They say, oh, you're amazing, you're beautiful, you're this confident woman. But hold on, you struggle with depression? Hold on, you said it's a good 3 days out of the month. You still struggle with that? You're not fixed yet? Like what? But I thought everything was working together. I thought that you were this. Why haven't you been fixed yet? What would be your answer about that?
There really is no fixing of depression. Depression, yes, there are times when you have just feelings of depression. Yeah. But also there's clinical depression where your body has an imbalance, literally, and you literally cannot physically see through the clouds. Yeah. And that is something like I do believe in medication. I don't believe in medication for everyone. I think you have to really seek and find, what's works for you and what's good. Like I tried medication when I was younger, and it actually intensified the feelings for me. And so
that's what I'm trying to find, that perfect blend with Armani, because he's on medication, but then I'd be like, does it work? Does it? Sometimes you get lethargic, get too sleepy, and want to sleep all the time. And I'm like,
yeah. And so and it's hard. It's a hard process to go through because there are so many different medications. There's different dosing. There's so many different things, but for a lot of people, it's a game changer. For me, it didn't really help in my walk so far. With depression, however, who knows in the future what may happen, but I have family members who are on medication. I have family members who aren't. I have family members who refuse to realize that they need help.
Yeah.
But for me, I monitor it. I have a lot of great friends that know when I need to be uplifted.
Good.
Obviously I have God, and I talk to him real, like, why am I going through this? Help me, show me the way through this. I hate feeling like this, Lord. Like, why is this happening? I mean, we have to be real with God. That is a way to honor him, is being real with him. He knows what's in our heart anyways. He sees us struggling.
There it is.
Talk to him about it.
There it is. Alicia, how can people stay connected with you?
Well, I'm at Tall Swag on all social media. So that's probably the best way
Tall Swag.
To stay connected. But, reach out to me. I do check my DMs.
Let me ask you this. How you feel about guys? Do you ever respond to guys that slide in your DMs?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. I'm not going to tell all my business, but
don't tell them your vetting process.
But I do. I mean, if you really think about it, it's like a dating app.
That's exactly what it is.
And I've tried dating apps also, which, haven't been my favorite. But to me, I have to move my feet. And during the pandemic, I was like, well, that's pretty much the only way that you're going to really meet somebody
online.
Yeah. But, and I had some, I guess you would say, success. But all in all, it wasn't really my favorite thing. But I do have a question. This kind of goes back to the height thing. Would you be okay?
Oh, Lord, she's not flipping on me.
I will. Would you be okay dating someone who's my height?
I think it'll be something getting used to. I'm open to a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. So even when you walked in, I stood next to you. I was like, what does this feel like? And I had this quick feeling of like, this feels uncomfortable, but then I've learned to embrace stuff that's uncomfortable. It's like I'll embrace it and I'll be like, this feels uncomfortable, get real with that emotion. I'll be like, yeah, but I don't know if it's ego, I don't know what it is, but I'll be like, I could handle this. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so.
But why is it so uncomfortable for you?
Because for someone to be towering over me, it just feels a little inferior.
Who said that was wrong?
It just feels, my spirit just feels different.
But who planted that was inferior for you to be shorter than a woman?
We're going to go back to society then. It's what we've been, it's been what we've been brainwashed in society. Because I think there's also certain tribes and countries or whatever where women are taller and men are shorter. There's different tribes where women are bigger and they're worshipped. Like plus size women are worshipped in certain tribes. Where in the United States, it's just this crazy ideology based upon our upbringing. But I think that's just what that is. And I've. What did I say to you? I said, you're extremely tall, and you corrected me and said what?
I'm exceptionally tall.
You're exceptionally tall. And I love that because, again, there's wording that has to get changed. There's stuff, and I always say that I'm mature enough to embrace that which I haven't experienced. And that's what I was saying as far as giving grace to certain circumstances. If I dated a woman that is exceptionally taller than I am, then there's some learning that has to, even wordplay. If I said, girl, you're extremely tall, you'd be like, I'm exceptionally tall, Laterras. Remember I told you that? Okay, girl, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but then it can't be where the woman is so offended by my ignorance either. It's like I'm learning some things, just like when you have people that are dating people of different ethnicities. There are going to be stumbling, there's going to be mistakes that's made, and then they go, no, you can't say that. You can't say that to a black woman and you're a white guy. Well, I thought that y'all say that to each other. We can say that, but you can't. It's all this stuff, this grace that we give each other. And so I think it's the same thing if I dated a woman that is exceptionally taller than I am, and for her to feel like if she says I'm looking down at you, then it'd be like, did you say you looking down at me? It's like, no, I'm just saying I'm physically looking down on you, but no, I kind of feel like you be looking down at me. It's like all this crazy insecurities that arise, but we have to be able to combat it with intelligence. And so yeah, I would entertain that.
But imagine dealing with that breakdown that you just did every single day with men that we interact with. Because that's what we deal with.
I understand.
Yeah.
I hear you, queen. I hear you, exceptionally tall queen.
Well, you know.
With tall swag. But yeah, that's... Did you give guys grace in their learning? Guys that you find are really genuinely trying to understand.
Yes, I absolutely do. That is a very rare find.
Really?
Yes. Most times people are just so ignorant with the things that they say in the approach. You know, it's like, why would I ever want to date you after, you know, you've come up to me saying we the same size laying down, girl. Like, no.
Oh, I shouldn't use that. I shouldn't use that.
No,
okay.
Never.
I was gonna
never
say
do that. It's another one. It's like, who would want to continue with getting to know someone
that start off at such a low vibration?
Height or no height, that's just
Ignorance.
rude.
Yeah. People just walk up and say some throw it off stuff. Huh?
Oh my goodness.
We're the same height laying down.
We're the same height laying down.
They already put you in the bed in the first conversation.
Right. So I know exactly where you're coming from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At least he ain't hiding it. He's letting you know. So if you proceed, then you need to proceed with caution because you already know what it is. And especially when he find out that you're a virgin, he'd be like, gosh, I said we're the same height laying down. We can't lay down. I messed up. What am I here for? What am I here for? I'm wasting my time. That is interesting. So, but you're open. You said you're open to dating a guy that's exceptionally shorter than you are.
I'm open to it if he is.
We already know if he's confident. Yes, he's fully confident.
But I'm trying to tell you.
No, no, because now you're basing past experiences on this new guy's opportunity to do something different.
Correct. Yeah. So I'm open to dating confident men. How about that?
I love it. Well, there it is. Listen, Alicia Jay, I really enjoyed talking to you on the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Thank you for your transparency. Thank you for just sharing your journey. I've never had the privilege of meeting a woman of your stature, a woman that is fully embodying her femininity, because there's nothing masculine about you. Like, that's another, I know you probably get that. They automatic, go ahead, because you want to say something.
I do, because why is height equated to masculinity?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. A woman that is a whole lot taller in stature is going to automatically feel like she's dominating a man in that regard that's shorter.
Far from the truth.
I know, and they haven't experienced it. You got to think, how many people, this is what we have to understand, how many men have experienced, I've lived on this earth for 44 years. I'm 44 years old, and I've never met a woman as tall as you are.
Well, I'm glad to be the first. I always like that. Yeah. But I mean, being exceptionally tall is something that is rare, but it doesn't mean that we aren't beautiful. It doesn't mean that we are inherently masculine, stereotypically masculine. It doesn't mean any of those things. It just means that we have the gift of being exceptionally tall.
That's it. And that's it. And that's what I'm saying. But to experience that, it takes people that have an open mind and a level of maturity to say, oh, she's just taller than me. Wow.
But I also would think that it would just, like, people come in all different shapes and sizes. We're all made beautifully different. And why does it, just because I have some extra inches, that is a gift, straight up, why does that make me all of those things? Like, we need to totally, like, get rid of all of those stereotypes, because there's not one way to be a human being in this world.
Yeah, and it's hard because when something is on the extreme of things, like if you saw somebody that's like, I used to watch my 600-pound life or whatever, and you see people that can't even move out the bed, then that person deserves love too. But then you automatically like, you lazy, you a slob, you this, you that, or whatever. Like, why would I want? And that person saying, I'm just a whole lot more inches around my waist, and we like, yeah, but I don't want all them inches laying next to me. You know, whatever that is, we all are challenged with our own preferences, biases, idiosyncrasies, and then when you actually meet and give yourself the opportunity to explore something outside of your norm, then you go, man, I would have. And then we get this aha moment where hindsight is 20/20, and we say, if I had known then what I know now, I would have embraced this earlier, you know? And so that's what I say, love is a journey. And so you get a chance to experience certain stuff and be like, this is what I've been waiting for. I never thought it would come in this package, but here it is.
But I also think it exposes a lot of those internal struggles that people have that they need to address.
100%.
I can't tell you how many times I walk by a man and they're like, oh, you make me feel so short. And I'm like, no, actually, you have just made yourself feel short. It wasn't me. It had nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
So there are things that we all need to look inside and change and abolish, you know, these things that we have. You know, you should not feel less confident because I'm taller. Mm-hmm. That's something that you need to literally work on for yourself, because you should feel confident in the exact body that you have and not be threatened by mine.
I can't say that when I was standing next to you, I didn't feel inferior to you. I just felt like, I was like, this would be an experience. You know what I'm saying? It's like, cause it's different. It's just so different, but no one gets I don't know where that is. I don't know if it's ego or whatever, but I don't feel inferior next to anybody. I could be around a tall guy. Shaq can be next to me, and I'd be like, "What's up, bro?" You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when you start exploring and say, "Let's get real with it," if I'm walking down the street at a restaurant, you know people are going to be looking, and it's a different look that I would get versus being with someone else. You know, and it's like, "Are you okay with that?" Me, I like attention, so that'd be fine with me. It'd be like, can you be cool with that? So it's all about, it's just a journey. Everything's a journey, and like I said, whoever God has is going to be the person for you but it's not going to come perfect. You know, He can be 7'2", and you thought that was the one, and he had the height and everything else, but then whatever else, it just didn't materialize.
I mean, obviously I'm single and I've dated all those heights, so I've learned that. I know.
She said, I think that this is the one. He's 7'2". I could actually look up to him.
There was more than that. But it was nice. I'm not going to lie. But there was definitely more than that.
No, I know what a woman told me earlier, said that the reason why she couldn't date, and she's like 5'9". She said she couldn't date a woman, a guy that's 5 foot tall, because she wouldn't feel safe with him physically. She wouldn't feel protected. Do you have a fear do you feel, well, you never dated a guy shorter than that much extreme?
Yeah. I can't speak to it personally because I never have. But I think there's different ways that people can make you feel safe, but I also feel safe by myself. So I don't really need someone to make me feel safe personally.
That's good. That's good. She was saying that's from a protective standpoint, that a man towering over you make you feel, more protected. And if he's that little, then you're looking down at him and you just feel like he's your son.
Again, I can't speak to it. I've never dated someone that much shorter than me, however.
So I feel like his son.
But I've definitely been around tall people that I don't feel safe with. I've been around tall people that aren't confident in it too. Like they don't like that I'm just as tall as them.
Yeah.
So I think it really just depends on the person. And that's why, like I said, I'm more open to it more now than ever, because I want to make sure that I'm with someone and not someone just because they're tall.
Perfect way to end it. Love has no heights. Thank you, Alicia, once again for sitting down on Dear Future Wifey Podcast. I really enjoyed this challenging conversation.
Yeah.
It caused me to challenge my own preferences.
And you will continue to challenge your preferences.
100%. Until I say I do.
Aren't we all?
Thank you.
Ladarian, thrusted suddenly into Child Protective Services in 2015. My nephew, Black, a boy. The likelihood of being adopted outside of kinship, slim to none. Armani, 16 years old, Black, a boy, with 5 years in the foster care system before I even knew his name. The likelihood of ever being adopted, yep, you guessed it, slim to none. While Ladarian and Armani were trying to survive and barely thrive in an overpopulated and underfunded foster care system, I was living my own life, doing well professionally. Having been a single father with a daughter who at that point was doing well in college, it was my time to live my life, right? Wrong. I felt unsettled, tireless, agitated. There are just too many of our Black children stuck in ambiguity and in the limbo of the foster care system. In 2017, I legally adopted my nephew, Ladarian. Fast forward to 2019, I had no ties to this other young king, but I felt God instructed me to adopt him also, and I obeyed. Starting over with parenting should have been enough, right? Working with various foster care and adoption agencies to help bring awareness to the countless young Black kings in the foster care system should have decreased my agitation, right? Joining the board of directors of Advantage Adoption, an organization that helps find permanent adoptive homes for children in foster care, should have led to some type of resolve, right? No, not at all. None of it felt like I had done enough. I now realize that every one of those experiences was laying the fundamental foundation for my life's mission, Kingdom Royale. Kingdom Royale will be a luxury, state-of-the-art home for foster boys. Our first location will be in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We will utilize the whole person approach that instills identity, empowers them to advocate for themselves, and enlightens them regarding new perspectives and limitless options that they thought were impossible. Though the young kings will attend the local public schools that are in proximity to Kingdom Royale, our at-home curriculum will broaden their worldview through participating in the arts, attending various cultural events, learning about and engaging in multifaceted discussions about current events and even relevant historical context, introducing them to gardening and landscaping and even caring for our animals on our farm and on-site stables. We just launched our Startup Capital campaign with the goal of raising $2.8 million. Now, why $2.8 million? Well, in 2017, I created a web series in which I performed random acts of kindness for targeting the homeless community. One of the most notable successes was that one of the videos went viral, garnering 28 million views. However, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't raise a single dollar to help in implementing a more sustainable plan for the homeless community. So throughout the years, with much remorse, I reflected on not maximizing that moment. I knew if at that time, just 10% of the viewers donated $1, we would have raised at least $2.8 million that could have really established long-term support for the homeless community, or at least started a long-term initiative to do so. This is my do-over. This is our new beginning. Together, we can attack this at the root by specifically helping our homeless Black boys who are already disproportionately represented in the American foster care system. I'm Laterras R. Whitfield. I've been nominated for 3 regional Emmys documenting my work with the homeless as well as my personal adoption journey. Despite those accolades, the greatest award for me is truly providing the infrastructure for a transformed life. Visit kingdomroyale.com for more details. Crown a king and make a donation today.
Yeah, this was a very interesting episode. Hey, make sure that you go into the description on the YouTube channel and sign up for the mailing list. Some exciting things that are going to take place, and I'm releasing an amazing course. But also, I need your email address so I can keep you abreast on all the many things we're going to be doing, events. I'm not going to go into it all just yet, but just know, got to get connected. A lot of y'all have been like, how can we stay connected? I may go live on Instagram and people wish they could have been a part of it, or I may do an event or It's been times I've done events where I never knew about it. So I need to find a way to stay connected to y'all. Well, here's my favorite part of the podcast where I speak to my future wifey. Dear future wifey, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too broke, you're too rich, you're too talkative, you're too quiet, you're too sexually experienced, you're too green, you're too smart, you're too dumb, you're too extravagant, you're too thrifty, you're too controlling, you're too easygoing, you're too clingy, you're too standoffish, you're too needy, you're too self-sufficient, you're too saved, you're too worldly, you're too ugly, you're too beautiful, you're just perfect for me, your future hubby.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Dear Future Wifey Podcast. Remember, be lit, live intentionally and transparently, and don't stop loving. Make sure to subscribe to our Dear Future Wifey YouTube channel. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We welcome your support. Simply share our podcast with your friends and family.